Bulavinaka, Namaste and good evening. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guests tonight are the chairman of the Fiji Rugby Players Association, Ilivasi Tabua, and director of the association, Wame Lewaravu. Very well-known individuals. They have claimed their name in rugby in their own right, done many great things, and it's been a pleasure watching them on the field and talking to them a lot off the field, and today bringing you this special discussion on rugby players and their future, their welfare. They have been champions, they entertain, we have legends, but what is their story behind the scene? What are the struggles? What are the challenges? Maybe we are only aware of successes when they bring them to us in the form of results. What more needs to be done to ensure that our rugby players are well looked after? Whether they play at the Kachi rugby level, Kachiana rugby level, at the secondary schools level, at the provincial level, or at the national level. And at the same time now, we have the trend of many of our players, including students, going for contracts overseas. Ilivasi, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come on the show tonight.
Thank you very much, Vijay, for having us here and having this time to talk more of what our association and I guess how best we can empower our young people for the future.
Wame, the same to you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, Vijay, for giving us this opportunity where we can come and share the information about Fiji Rugby Players Association in regards to the welfare of our players, both past, present, and future.
Just for background, for Ilivasi, he was nicknamed the human skewer while playing for the Wallabies back in the day. And I'll take you back to those days, 94-95, playing for the Queensland Reds in the Super Rugby, winning the titles for the Reds, then representing the Wallabies in the 1995 World Cup, and before that, representing Australia in the first ever Rugby World Cup Sevens in 1993. Of course, Australia playing in the final against England knocking Fiji out, that Waisale Serevi-led team going out of that quarterfinal of the World Cup, the first ever 1993 World Cup that we missed out on. That great man Andrew Harriman ran riot first for Fiji, against Fiji. And how was it playing against him in the final, Ilivasi?
Well, I mean, they had a very strong team, very well balanced team. You got Harriman and the likes of Dalit or Hanford, I think. But it was very physical. You know, the game was physical, and at the same time, we had a lot of good players. We had Kempisi, Horan, Little, Liner. So it was a balance of both. I mean, I guess you may say it sort of portrays the 91 World Cup where Australia and England played in the final. Here in the sevens, 93, Australia and England are played in the finals.
91, Australia won the World Cup in England, and 93 World Cup Sevens, of course, was won by England, beating Australia. Wame, you, as far as I know, rose from Suva Grammar School in that victorious team, Grammar winning the first ever Dean's Trophy title in 2001 at Lamanga Park, and to wear the white jersey right up to the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Of course, your coach was Ilivasi. And before you went on overseas, played in England, France and Italy?
Yep, and Japan.
And Japan. Quite an illustrious lineup of countries you've been to. Rugby's taken you to places, Wame?
Yes, quite a journey, going all through these different countries, learning all the different cultures and the languages, and of course the different types of the way they play their rugby, totally different from how we play back here in Fiji.
Now, Ilivasi, you went to Sydney. You were at Marist Brothers High School here in Flagstaff, and got the opportunity to go to Sydney, and then your career began there. Of course, then eventually playing in Super Rugby and then for the Wallabies. You have been through Fiji Rugby also as player after returning as well, and then coaching the Flying Fijians in the 2007 World Cup. What made you decide that Fiji needs a Rugby Players Association?
You know, it's a very good question. For me, having grown up in an era where rugby was an amateur sport, you know, it didn't turn professional until after '95 World Cup. '96 the game turned professional. For me, actually growing up in an amateur environment and having to see what was done in those times in development and in support systems, and then coming into a professional environment where you know, contracts were laid out, where you know, roles and responsibility, work ethics. Was very new, and how best I could do. It was lucky because then there were mentors, there were support systems in place to actually understand what was I getting myself into, you know. And then from there, in a professional environment and the support systems they have, because I mean, here you've been contracted, you're demanded of a certain jobs and outcomes needed. And then moving from Australia to a professional environment after the Rugby World Cup in '95, I went to Japan as well. I spent 4 years there, and having to have a look at how developed they are, because they were far more ahead. They were, you know, they were professionals then at that time. And then coming back to Fiji to have a look and to play in the '99 World Cup, to see the difference in there, as we were still amateur playing a game that is totally moved to a professional environment, and how best we make ourselves to be. And I think from what I've learned, it helped me. I guess this is what I wanted to do, to empower our up-and-coming players and the development pathways and how best they could be looked after, I guess had their understanding of what they're getting themselves into and what's required of them. I think that is what I wanted to give back for what the game has given me. The game itself has given me a lot. I've seen the world. I've been to all continents. I made friends for life. And as they say, you know, one thing about rugby that, you know, there is a beer in the bed wherever you go. And it has shaped who I am, and I've made a lot of friends for life. And this is what I want to give back, the experience, the exposure to the young generation, and how rugby could be used to empower our young people.
Looking back at your own career, what challenges do you wish players had protection or support for in your time?
I guess for us, in our time, was more of an education of where we were heading to. All of a sudden, straight after the World Cup in '95, there were the challenges of, you know, the charter group was going to take over World Rugby, and how we're going to negotiate for a global game. And we ourselves, everything was just, you know, it was told to us, and they said, listen, this is what you're going to get. And then eventually they do come in slots of payments. But here is a contract, this is what you're going to do, this is what's going to happen, this is where you're going to move to, and how best that we could know. And now we've got to assign a lawyer or a mentor. And those are the things I wish, you know, we were educated and empowered early of how the game was evolving, and I guess the professionalism of where we were moving to, that we could be equipped well of how and what to face coming into that environment.
Just taking you back a bit, you ended up in Sydney when you were 17. Were you playing rugby already in Fiji?
I did. I started my rugby here in Marist with the juniors, the midgets, the inter. I played a bit of, at that time they had the Bishop Foley Cup. So I played a couple of senior games here. Then going into Sydney.
What was different?
Then the game was totally different because it was more organized. It was only 2 days. Here, the games, we come in every day from Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday, and the game is on Saturday. As for this, we're only there on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And all the other days were your time with your preparation, but the team preparation had only 2 days. So we had only 2 days, and the game was organized or structured in a way, what to play, how to play, and what to do in zones and in areas. So it educated me a bit on how you understand the game they play, and quickly I got myself entered and worked my way up. And having to have that, I guess that free-flowing movement that I had with growing up here, it helped me to just pursue what I wanted to.
Wame, you've played professionally overseas, been to many countries. As I said earlier, that rugby has taken you to different parts of the world. What differences did you see in how players were supported there compared to Fiji when you went there?
Massive difference. For all these different countries, the way they look after their players, they look after them in such a way that they see the players as assets. So they have to look after them, their well-being, and protect their well-being compared to those of us that come from the islands, not just Fiji. Talking about Fiji, Tonga and Samoa. We don't have anything there to protect us, to look after our welfare. What we do is that we come under these different player organizations with these countries, but there's always a big difference. It's not a holistic approach to people coming from our side of the globe. And so there's so many challenges that we face out there, and there's no voice to stand up for these players, particularly in terms of contracts, national duties. There's no way where we can transition a player from coming from a national duty to have a little bit of rest and then jump into club games. In my experience, just come straight from national duties straight into training or into first game. And that's where most of the injuries that we as players face or come from, because of the high intensity, and then there's no program or anything that is in place. But that all comes under the Player Welfare Association, to have a voice, to stand up for these players, to tell these big unions, look, you got to give them a rest. They just came back from national duties. Even though there are requirements by World Rugby that they need to have rest, but it's not enforced simply because we don't have a voice to sound this out.
So Wame, the first country that you went to from here, where was it?
Japan.
Japan. And how was it? How was it when you went to Japan? First of all, you definitely didn't stay in Japan before that, right?
No.
Okay.
I've traveled quite a bit before going to Japan with the Fiji rugby program that was going on in 2005-2006, where we had to go back and forth between Australia. So there was a program in place back then to help players transition into playing in Fiji and going over to play professional rugby and also at national level. So there wasn't much of culture shock or surprised when I went to Japan, but the surprising thing was the adapting into Japanese way of life, the language, and rugby just came naturally.
For both of you, from your perspective, what are the biggest gaps in Fiji rugby that this association hopes to fill?
For me, really, I mean, if you look at the development of the game in itself, there is no data. There isn't any data from the junior development to senior rugby, and how best that we could see where the discrepancies are, where we're going to start, and how we could better it. I mean, if you look at development, there's a lot of development programs in all different countries that would show, I mean, at certain age group, this is what you wanted to have a look at. There is a model that I saw in Canada was, it states, you train to play, you train to train, you train to compete, and you train to win. And there is different phases or skills capacity where it's introduced, and when it's up to train to win, there becomes then the contact situation. It's never about outcome. It was always about process. For us here, it's all outcome driven, rather than having a look at the process so we could fix the process on how we could better these young men on the field and off the field. So much so that it's not only about on the field. You know, what happens off the field affects them on the field, in their surroundings, in where they are, and the decisions they make. There was, you know, this a scenario you could say. I mean, if for us as a coach, if I may put my head on as a coach, if a kid is having infringements or giving penalties, the question I would raise then is it skill or decision making? Why is he making that choice? Why is he giving us that penalty? So we could help in making the player make the best judgments of their risk when he's confronted by it. At international level, there's only 3 seconds between the decisions that you're going to make, whether you support or whether you take the support player out. For you to win the ball, there's only 3 seconds. So whatever is outside, off the field, it does affect you. That means your relationship off the field, your relationship with your family, the pressures off the field, with your partner, with your family, with work, that does have its challenges here. And those are the things, I guess, when we're looking at the player or the game in itself, we've got to look at it holistically in a great range of it, and how best that we could put systems in place for better outcomes, and has to be process driven in how best we could equip this player to be the best they could be on and off the field.
Wame, from your perspective, what are the biggest gaps in Fiji rugby that this association hopes to fill?
One of them is schools rugby, specifically the Dins. If you look at the history of the Flying Fijians, 80% or 90% of those that have gone on to represent the Flying Fijians never played Dins or under 18s during their time in school. It's usually the ones that never played or joined later on in life that reach that level. And a big number of these kids that come through the Dins competition never get to that level. I don't know why, but maybe they're just so hyped up with the Dins that after that, you know, there's nothing to look forward to. So we want to advocate on that. You know, there's something more than just Dins. You know, there's the Flying Fijian, there's Fiji Warriors, Fiji Barbarians, to help them see the pathway to national level. And secondly, life after rugby. That is something that's very big right now. Most of our players do not plan for life after rugby. For us Fijians, we are so passionate about rugby. And because we are so passionate, we are so focused into playing, and then we forget about it. This will finish one day. and then you wake up the next morning and you find out, rugby's finished. What's there for you to support you in your life after rugby, or how you're going to transition from being a rugby player to become a normal person in society. That is something that we want to look into with ex-players, and also start educating the young kids that are coming up nowadays to, plan ahead. So we want to set up a program where we can, make them plan out their career or what they want to do with their rugby career, whether they want to go professional or just simply enjoying rugby.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Oh my gosh! Oh, what's in the box?
You're probably wondering, what's in the box? Well, if you must know, it's actually me. Before you call the police, I'm actually an app. The all-new Fiji Village app. Here's an update. See what I did there? I gave you an update. What's new? Well, for starters, I look different. My new layout also comes with stories if you're looking for something short and sweet. I will bring you the latest news on the dot so you stay updated. You're welcome. You don't have to go anywhere for content because I bring the content to you. Not only can you listen to your favorite radio stations, you can also watch online video content. Which reminds me, do you love sports? Well, guess what? With the Fiji Village app, you can stay up to date with your favorite sports and scoreboards, no matter where you are. Your #1 news website just got better with an app. Download and get updated now.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan, and our guest tonight, the Fiji Rugby Players Association Chairman, Ilivasi Tabua, and Director of the Association, Wame Lewaravu. Now, as I said earlier on the show, if for those who are watching and also listening on our podcast, that Ilivasi was the coach of the Flying Fijians in the 2007 World Cup in France, and Wame Lewaravu was in the team, Flying Fijian, playing lock, and came into the team that got South Africa right on the edge of the cliff at 20 points all, and the famous comments by Joe Smith from the Springboks saying they thought that Fiji had them at that time 20 all. And by that time, in 2007 Rugby World Cup, in the quarterfinals, the All Blacks were already knocked out. The Wallabies were already knocked out. And here we had the Flying Fijians almost knocking out the Springboks. Coach, that's a special moment. How did you get to that with the process that you had?
It is. It has always been a special moment. And it's not only for us, player or as a coach in itself. It was a special moment for the nations. For us, I mean, we had only about 8 weeks to prepare. PVAC left in February. There was about 9 months for us to prepare, and we had to put together a team and a plan. Peter Murphy was then the high performance manager, and we sat down. I said, personnel was ideal for us to get. It's a short time and a short turnaround. The right people, and I guess in the right position, and the players that we must actually pick, and at the same time, with the team or with the staff that we wanted. We had a total local staff, all local staff. The head of medical, the head of physio was all local, with only 2 overseas assistant personnel. And then it was, I guess, the identity. One was the identity of who we are, who we represented, and where we want to go. And then it was the education, the inductions of what we wanted to achieve and how we're going to do it, in preparing ourselves to where we want to. and the goal we set ourselves. The goal that we set ourselves was to the quarterfinals. We knew that nobody was actually going to see that we will get there, but I guess when seeing the players there believing in what we wanted to put ourselves through and how we're going to get there. I remember one day on the 6th week, the captain Moses Rauluni came up and said, Ili, do you want to kill us? I said, that's what I want to hear. I said, you can go through that threshold and get back and get going. And that's, then we moved, I guess we tailor back the training into 2 days because we were training for three times a day, just morning, midday, afternoon. When he said that to me, I knew then that these guys were willing to take it to the next level. And, I guess the team, one is a team spirit. They were educated enough to understand what's required of them. It's then team building. There was no I in the team, it was we. How are we going to get there and how are we going to do it? And do it as a team. Who for our family, for who we represent, for our country. And for the people out there, our supporters, who's going to be screaming out for us. And looking back at it, and I guess sometimes you wonder, and there was, I guess, the conversation with the Players Association. It started there when I spoke to some of the guys.
In 2007.
We spoke about this, and I said, as we move on to this, I would want to see a Players Association as the game was evolving, and we need more representation. We need players to be more educated, not only to be a rugby player, but there is life after rugby. But could you use, rather than just playing rugby, use education as a leverage and how we could empower ourselves. So that, I guess, conversation started off then. And there was, it followed through. Then after a while, it took turn. But eventually, it came back. And sure enough, a player in 2007. We're here now, and hopefully that this will turn Fiji rugby into a better trends moving forward.
And knowing that you've played and you've coached, and just going back to that day when Fiji was playing the Springboks, and we had them at the edge of the cliff. What was going through your mind as the coach, as you're sitting in the coach's box?
We just couldn't believe ourselves that this is what it is. I guess after that game, or even before that game, we were just saying to ourselves, what's after this? Because our goal was to get to the quarterfinal. It was never. I mean, South Africa later went on to win the World Cup. For us it was just, the pass. It was just the arm. It could have turned the game the other way around. Rwanga, Rambeni. It was just
patience.
I mean, it was the adrenaline was there, the spirit was there. I guess. It's just the patience with it. I guess for me, sitting there, it's just I couldn't believe myself that these young guys came all the way from Fiji, but not all of them. There was only 2 guys that came from overseas. The rest was all local, and to actually put a team which has got 8 million budget for the World Cup, and for us we were struggling trying to get ends meet, put them to the sword and question them. Okay, come on, let's play. That is a magic moment, and will always be with me as a coach and as a supporter of Fiji rugby.
Surely magical indeed. Wame, you were on the field, you played in that final. What was, first of all, Ilivasi talked about the process and the build up to it. Moji Roluni talking to him, are you killing us here based on what was the process leading up to knowing that you had about 9 weeks. So, from your perspective as a player, knowing that the players are watching this out there as well, and those who are fans who are watching it may not know what the players have to go through to deliver at that level.
Those 9 weeks was quite intense, with a lot of challenges coming with it in terms of equipment and the necessary tools to help us prepare for the World Cup. I guess that's where the discussion for the Player Welfare Association came up. But we never voiced it publicly. It was always within us because we had a duty. And for most of us, I think 40% or 50% of the team were just locals. So we put our hand up and we said we're going to go through this. We won't complain because a lot of kids out there, a lot of young men out there wanted to be part of their World Cup team, and we were quite blessed enough to be picked for that team. So there was not much of a moaning or complaining, but we knew that we needed this. I think if we had the necessary tools, equipments, accommodation, nutrition, I think we would have gone right up to the finals. Probably because of that, that's probably the reason why we just aimed for the quarterfinals. After the game, then we realized we could have gone as far as the finals or second run-up. So I guess it comes back to the preparation. But going back to your question, in the lead up to that World Cup, 9 weeks was quite intense, and then when we came there, it was a different atmosphere altogether. Quite nerve-wracking, nervous. You're just playing at Ratuvakombo Park, Lawanga Park, National Stadium, and all of a sudden you see the 70,000, 80,000 crowd screaming at you. A big television, video shooting in a crowd and everything. It's quite an experience. But thankfully we had a program that was running before that, as I mentioned before, for the local boys that was here. That actually helped us adapt quickly in the environment of the Rugby World Cup.
Ilivasi, we've seen players who gave everything for the jersey but struggled after their career ended. How will the association make sure this doesn't keep happening?
I guess, that's one thing that we spoke about, as why we actually wanted to form this association. One is putting, programs in place from development pathways at 15 moving up. There's one thing I wanted to have a look as well, is how best that we could use rugby as a tool, but use it in a way that it's you compensate each other with education. There's if you look at some of the scholarship programs in certain countries, in America, for an example, there is a passing mark that you got to be if you want to be in the actual scholarship in itself. How best that we could empower. That's not only focusing on rugby. Why not having a diversion or an education pathway as well, but using it as a leverage. You can't be playing rugby but not having that education, so that by the as he progresses, there is a life after rugby in itself, and having to have that pathway. You're lucky to have 10 years of professional playing career. What it falls short, where do you move in from there? And I think Wame spoke about it. I said most of it, some of these players that are playing in the Deans will never get to play at the national level, and you see the percentage of it. Most of them, of the guys that went to play in the Flying Fijians, never came through the actual Dean's Cup. Where are these players gone to, and how best that we could use that or the empowerment that's come through with it to have a directions or have an empowerment through the other. Because the game in itself, we've got to address it in a tripartite form, both the physical form, the mental form, and the spiritual form. And those stages as well have feeders. So mentally, physically, you got to feed it well, you got to feed it mentally well, and spiritually as well. And I guess that helps them in wherever they're going to go through in life. And one thing about being in a sports or being in a team environment, the values and the principles, how you could use that to empower the young players coming through in wherever they're going to go. It's teamwork, it's discipline, it's commitment, it's trust. And those are the values that you want to carry through, and not only on the field, but wherever you go, be it community, be it family, be it work. Those are the values that is needed. And how best that we could use that and emulate that and empower that, that is it's transferable wherever they go. So that he's not only a rugby player, but wherever he goes, he could be fruitful. He could be a direction where he himself or she or whoever the player that we're developing could be a stronger person in the future. But let's not just have a look at our development or our outcome as winning. It's how best that he could be a winner in life. And I think that's one of the big things that we are trying to look into, to be a winner in life.
Not just on the field.
Not just on the field. You've got to be a stronger person off the field. And 2015 World Cup, New Zealand had a great punchline. You've got to be a better person to be a better All Black. And that's what we want as a player association. You got to be a better man, or you got to be a better person to be a better Flying Fijians, on and off the field.
Now, rugby is not only physical. Players face mental pressure, as you've said, injuries, sometimes disputes with clubs, sometimes alcoholism comes in. Now we've got the threat of drugs as well, a whole lot of different things. The stress comes too much. Then you've got the cyberbullying, you've got the social media. How will you represent players in all these different facets that continue to emerge now?
As we spoke about it earlier, I think it's education of how you adapt to situations, how you adapt to, I guess you can take, one is education of, you got to take control of what you can control. And the other is, I guess, it's your response to what is coming. The game in itself sees that, and as well at the same time, we look after the players' interest in regards to how best that they could do in sports psychology, in relationship, and how you could, advocate itself to be a stronger person off the field. And education is one of them, through the development pathways of a player coming through schools to club to the professional environment, because and this is what affects them on the field, and those things that we're trying to address and have people in place for education and empowerment.
Will you work with civil society groups to also make sure there's a lot of education on things like gender-based violence?
Oh, it is. I mean, it's everything that's around us. Whatever there is all around us, we've got to educate them to be the stronger person. Not only that, but understand what's around you. In the game in itself, there's two things you can't control: is the guy with the whistle, and nature, and how you adapt to it. And I guess it's the respect of everything that's around you. What happens off the field, it does affect you on the field and the decision making that you do. And those are the things that we are trying to, advocate and empower our younger players coming through as they progress through their development pathways.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Now, Wame, from your own career, what was the toughest reality for you as a Fijian player overseas? What did you learn that could help others?
Well, I faced so many challenges and issues while playing overseas, but I think the most challenging thing for me was dodgy agents and dodgy contracts. This is very vital thing that we need to look at because it affects the player's performance in a way, and also it affects how he associates himself with the society, with his friends, with his families. And knowing us Fijians, we don't really talk about these kind of things. We keep it to ourselves. And in some occasions, I think one or two occasions where it has led to very what's the word I can say, in a very bad way. So for me, for this association is, we really like to get players represented by proper agents. So if we can monitor and supervise that, we can in a way, we can help the player perform well in the field because it affects them emotionally and also mentally. I went through the same thing in a couple of clubs in Europe, but thank God there was always some people support to help me through that. But other players did not have the same help. So I think this is one of the things that we really need to address for those that are there overseas and for those that are here and about to move over.
Dodgy agents.
Dodgy agents and dodgy contracts.
Here at home, players have spoken about not being paid on time or not knowing the full details of their contracts and things like that. Will your association step in as a watchdog in these cases, and how will that be done?
Yes, definitely. We will be the voice for these players. It's part of our objectives, where it's a holistic objective approach, not only in the field but also outside the field. These are some of the things that affects them psychologically. Some of them have families to feed, while some of them have basically things to pay for. It's very important that, what's in the contract, it has to be respected by whoever is providing the finances for this place. We definitely be the supervisor, regulator for the welfare of players, not only in here and but overseas as well.
Question for both of you. Ilivasi, firstly for you. Many players are scared of speaking out, definitely, because they don't want to lose their place in a team. How will you reassure them that the association will truly have their back?
I guess that's one thing. It's about educating the player where to reach out and have support systems in place that, okay, it could be anonymous, but at the same time, I guess that's why we set out to have 12 councils in our governing body to represent all different level of development. And that's where they could raise their concern. Players raise their concern to the representation at all different levels. So for us, we were looking at Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, the Flying Fijians, the Fijian, the Sevens team. Those are representation of a 12 council.
Drua as well?
The Drua as well, so that they could raise their concern on what is happening with them and issues they have, and we could raise awareness to the national body of what this is happening here, what's happening here, how best we could address this, and how we could educate that it doesn't continue to do so, or how best we could fix this. That we are in an environment, a professional environment, where this has to be above board and has to be seen to be looked after. Our biggest asset is our players, and come on, let's look after our biggest asset here to get the better outcome for rugby and for the community in the whole.
Well, we know that there's now, even after the recent deeds, there's so many scouts who are here and they're doing trials, and even right from the under 15 level. And on the same question, many players would want that contract, or they don't want to lose a place in a team. How can you educate and reassure them that the association will look after their best interest?
I think for that we really need to liaise with the Ministry of Education to allow us to come in and speak to the schools. These agents coming in at the moment, we have no way of stopping them because there's no framework at the moment. That is something that we are looking into, but it's very important that, if they don't come to us, they at least speak to someone that has played overseas to advise them, or even look at the contract and then see that, all the necessary requirements, especially for their well-being, is there in the contract. Where most players have failed in the past is contracts that are in foreign languages. The agent might come up with something and say, this is the translation for this. The same thing is here, is there. But when you go that side and then they finally realize that it's totally different. But, when over there, like I said before, we Fijians tend to not speak up, and then they keep these to themselves, and then they vent in so many different ways, drinking alcohol, ending up problems with the law, and so many other things. So it's vitally important that they reach out. We will definitely look after their best interest. Whether they like it or not, we will tell them the honest truth, that this is a good contract, you can go, this is not good, maybe you should wait and probably look for someone else. Or we might find a better agent, a better contract for them. And that is also part of what we are looking into, player representation. But first we gotta put the legal framework in place so that everything is aligned according to the laws of this country.
Wame, you did say that when you were abroad, at times you were caught out in a situation.
Yep.
If you can tell the people of Fiji, at that time when that happened, of course you were almost like cheated. And then you in a foreign country, and the difficulties you faced, no doubt, would have affected you and your family. If you can share that with the people, that this is the hard truth.
Okay, I'll give you one example. So I was in negotiation with a club, a top 14 club. I was already in a top 14 club, and that club was about to go down because I had some loan repayments back home. I needed to secure a contract because if the club goes down, then I would lose out that amount which I had before. But if I go down, then I'll lose out on the loan repayments, and then, as we all know, the banks will come in and take. The negotiation was going well with the club, but then last minute the agent said, the club is not good, the club is having some financial difficulties, maybe it's not the right place for you to go. You might just stay here and I look for another club for you. But then I signed, and then 6 months down the road, I found out that, there was nothing wrong about the club. But this club had paid him to try and convince me to stay. So I lost out on a very good contract, which would have helped me, because when I went down, I lost that first contract with that much amount to help me with my loan repayments, and I had to struggle to find other means to try and make those loan repayments, and that affected me mentally, emotionally, especially during training and in the game as well. I know that if there was this particular match which was thinking about this thing that got me into injury, I broke a collarbone in that game. So it's very important for these kind of things, because rugby is not just about the physical aspects. You got to look after the emotional and the mental things. Like Ilivasi was saying, rugby is only 80 minutes, but what happens out here affects the performance in the field.
You're watching Fiji Village Street Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break. Years ago, we had a major drug bust, and you would remember, you would have been part of the operations at Laudala Beach. A lot of people in Fiji did not know what was methamphetamine. And what we are picking up on, people are saying it's readily available. Just an issue in relation to General Secretary. Was that a tactical move that he ejected himself from Parliament?
Personally, it's unfortunate.
How are you dealing with those police officers who may be allegedly involved in this?
No one is above the law.
We assure you that we will be having police officers around. as a result of that bad policy, by the end of this month, we would have lost close to about $70 million in government revenue.
Bulavinaka, I am Vijay Narayan. This is Fiji Village Straight Talk.
Fiji Village Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan. Watch it live on the Fiji Village Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, Ilivasi Tabua and Wame Lewaravu. They are from the Fiji Rugby Players Association. Rugby greats back in the day, and now making sure things are done right. Ilivasi, coming back to your nickname as the human skewer, known for your commitment and toughness on the field. How will you bring that toughness into pushing for accountability in Fiji rugby off the field?
As we spoke about it earlier, it's about empowerment, it's about education through our development pathway. And it not only as a sports person on the field, but off the field as well, and how best that we could address these challenges as we develop our players coming through. So working with the custodians of the game and having to see that the development pathway is more so, it's uniformal. I mean, at the moment, you're looking at grammar would be running its own. RKS would be running its own. Why not have it uniformly where you could assess a kid on their development from skill, strength, conditioning, and education pathway at all levels and assess it and said, listen, we're nagging here, we're nagging here. And we assess on outcomes rather than process. And how best we could say, change this to see that we take everybody over the line. We help everybody to get across, to score a try. And I guess this is the challenge that we face, and this is what we wanted to educate not only the development of the game in itself with the custodians of the game, but school development, club development, provincial development, and at the same time understand what you're getting yourselves into. You know, sometimes the word of going overseas is very rosy, that everybody's looking forward to it, but they don't realize, you know, there is a totally different environment. The language, the work ethic, what's required of you. Not only that, the cost of where you're going to go and the things they demand of you. And those are the things that could be educated. No, let's take them across, but why not empower them here? When they move forth, they're much equipped to, I guess, to adjust to circumstances, adjust to certain things around them, and they're well, I guess, paid well to that respond in what they do.
Now just tell us how this will work. Will you be working with the Fiji Rugby Union in a setup, or will you be just a pressure group?
We would want to have an education, I guess, with people having to facilitate. We did this in 2007, 2006. We had 9 modules to just give you a way that we wanted to. The 9 modules was about financial literacy. There was, you have media, you have drug and alcohol, you have sex education, you have time management, and then you have your plan for your life in the future. So those are the certain things that education and those partners that could partner with us, with the Players Association, in putting an education platform in place with the development pathway. For example, if players wanted to come or wanted to join us, said this is what we wanted to see in secondary schools. How can we put this in place? As they are playing through the age groups, we have an education in time management, we have an education in financial literacy, we have an education in life after rugby programs, or how would you talk to media, or manage yourselves in a certain situation, or about drug and alcohol, or about life in general. So those are the things that we want to have a look in and have partners with us to educate our younger players, not only our younger players, but all the players that are coming into Fiji Rugby Players Association.
And I believe you'll have a representation on the Fiji Rugby Union board as well?
There is, I think there is you may say, yeah, a position in the Constitution for us to be at the board level, and so that we will have our voice heard at the board level.
As a player's representative?
As a player's representation.
Wame, you've gone through the school system and the Dean's Rugby competition. How important is it for the association to also support the grassroots players, not just the professionals, knowing that you may have also seen that some of the people who do not get the support can get duped as well?
It's very important that we support the grassroots system here in Fiji, because that is where the future of Fiji rugby lies. Going back to the model which Ilivasi was talking about, we want to reintroduce that model through the school system, working with the Fiji secondary school, the school itself, the teachers and the parents, especially when it comes to negotiating for contracts, or when these agents come through and offer them something to go overseas. From my experience, there have been a couple of young kids that have come over to Europe. They've been lured by these agents. One kid in particular came straight after winning the Dean's final. So he came on this academy contract, which you might have seen around social media. It's called the GIF. Coming into this club, he only spent about 3 weeks in the academy. Then the rest of the season he was playing in pro level, in senior level, with an academy contract. And somewhere down the road he was getting into trouble. And then when some of the players went and tried and do an intervention with him, then they found out that, you know, the contract was not what he was promised back home. So there was a certain amount promised, but then when he came over, he was living on a €500 a month contract with his own apartment, having to pay with his own utility bills and find his own way to training, no transportation provided, food, with that €500. So it affects the kids that go over. Parents don't know this, the relatives, they don't know this. They just know what, you know, the zero looks good, but this is some of the things that you need to look at. The cost of living over there, the tax, what you need to pay. They need to be educated. Back then, when we were in the Dean's competition, it was totally different. Right now, the agents are coming down to grassroots level, so we gotta bring that financial literacy, all these education models to better educate the kids, not only the kids, but also the parents and the teachers.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our discussion tonight is on rugby players' welfare, and we are having that with the chairman of the Fiji Rugby Players Association, Ilivasi Tabua, and director of the association, Wame Lewaravu. Wame, in the first year, what practical changes do you want players and fans to see to prove that this association is more than just words?
I think, as I said before, is working with the grassroots. So at the moment we are trying to work with Fiji Secondary School and the Ministry of Education. We will soon reach out to them. And then the ex-players that are out there, not only overseas, but most especially here in Fiji. One of the reasons why we set up this association is that from the 3 countries of Fiji, Tonga and Samoa, Fiji's rugby players, 90% to 95% of all rugby players that play for Fiji or play professional are born and raised in Fiji, and when they finish their career, they come back, and most of them come back into nothing. Some might have something already set up, but life is a long journey. Some of those do not have the proper qualification, knowledge, so we want to reach out to them, see how we can help out with them getting some qualifications, whether it's through tertiary or vocational, or just helping them setting up their business. And if we are able to help out these ex-players and we can use them in this association, that way we can also strengthen Fiji Rugby Union.
Gentlemen, what's your message to former, current and future Fijian rugby players listening or watching tonight who want to know why this association matters to them?
I guess it's ideal. We're living in an era, where the game is professional, where the game has moved and is evolved. And if you've got to equip our best players, or you've got to equip our players to how to face this challenge, both on and off the field. And this, for us as an association, we want to put that in place so that our players, our future players, our players currently in a professional or provincial environment are empowered, are educated into what it is to be a rugby player, or a better representation of who we are, and how best that we could have systems in place or support systems in place where they could reach out to and help them in their challenges and their struggle as a rugby player.
Wame, from your side, for those who are watching, and this show goes out around the world, including around Fiji, of course, many people will be watching, former, current and future rugby players. Those who are watching and listening tonight, even on our podcast, what's your message to them in relation to the association on why it has to be formed and why it is important to have it?
I think there's nothing further to add there, because current and ex-players, they know the different countries which they've played in, there's always players association there. And we've been members of those different associations, but now we have our own. I think the message that we would like to relay out there is, this is here, this is ours, and we need your support. If you want to come and help, then please do so. We're inviting everyone out there that is listening to come in and help. This is for us. In the Intoke language, I would say, go and nonda, go and nomu, go and nonda. And for the parents of our future Flying Fijians or future stars of this country, this is here for you. Please, whatever help or support that you need, we welcome whatever suggestion or help that you would like to offer to the association. This is here for you, and not only for the current ex-players, but also for our future generations.
That's the Fiji Rugby Players Association Chairman Ilivasi Tabua and Director Wame Lewaravu. I believe that this is a new journey that everybody would be looking forward to in how it plays out, and we definitely will be following this closely, and they will be coming back on the show again to talk about developments. Thank you again for coming on the show this evening, and that's our show for tonight. Until our next show, have a great evening.